Throughout the 1960s, the fire of the Saturn V rockets on the Apollo missions ignited the imagination of the entire world. But Apollo is not a story of machines, but of people. The men who went to the moon were test pilots mostly, and some aeronautical engineers. They were ordinary people doing an extraordinary job. But they all shared the sense of adventure and determination to achieve the seemingly impossible, and a willingness to push themselves to the absolute limit, to the very edge of human experience. Much has been said and written about the Apollo astronauts. They remain a unique breed, a handful of heroes with a special place in the history of the last millennium. After more than 30 years of space exploration, only 12 men have set foot on another planet. This, in their own words, is their story.
We gave a whole generation of young people a dream, something to aspire to, something to work in. They felt this touch of magic that only comes maybe once or twice in your life when you truly are living a dream.
Particularly when I look at the moon at night, it just seems like that's so far away. I don't know how anybody could ever get there. I can remember all the things that we did in training and the flight and afterwards. But at the same time, because there's no one going now and there's no spaceship now, it seems almost a little bit like a dream.
It was always real, a tremendous adventure. In fact, I stepped onto that ship. I called my wife, and we got to talk to our families, and I talked to Dottie, and I said, I'm ready to go again. It was a vivid memory from the moment I got back, and still is today. For me, 27 years since I stepped onto the moon.
Some people even get mad. What do you mean the moon is the biggest thing in your life, you know? And I said, well, it isn't. They think, well, it should be. I said, why? You know, I mean, because I'm the guy that did this.
Being exposed to the opportunity to go to the moon is a tremendous impact on a person's life. And anyone that says otherwise, I think, is belittling the nature of the experience that we were fortunate enough to participate in.
I not only had an opportunity to walk on the moon, I had a chance to command my own flight. And then as fate would have it, that flight was the last flight, and I was the last man to have walked on the surface of the moon. I couldn't have anticipated it. I couldn't have predicted it. I couldn't have asked for it. But, you know, I've got to be the luckiest human being in the world.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
In 1962, President John F. Kennedy made one of the boldest political statements of the last century. He was determined to unlock the hidden treasure trove of knowledge to be found on the dusty surface of our nearest planetary neighbor. And so, the space race began, and the Apollo program was born. But later that year, America watched in horror as Russia launched the first man into space, Yuri Gagarin. America simply had to be the first to the moon. Success became more important in 1963, when suddenly and tragically, the Apollo program became JFK's legacy. Throughout the 1960s, America committed over $25 billion to the project. More than 400,000 Americans in factories and offices across the country worked tirelessly to create a craft capable of bridging the 250,000-mile void from the Earth to the moon. And succeed they did. On the 20th of July, 1969, the world watched in wonder as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first human beings to set foot on another planet.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Over the next 3.5 years, 10 more astronauts would walk on the moon, eventually spending up to 3 days on the surface, exploring the lunar valleys and mountains.
There is orange soil. I'll hold it till I see it. I've stirred it up with my feet. Hey, it is! I can see it from here. It's orange.
The entire program was one of the greatest human endeavors in the history of mankind. But it wasn't just a human endeavor of a few guys who had the chance to walk in space or call the moon their home. It was a human endeavor of the thousands and thousands of people who were committed to do something that most people thought couldn't be done. I mean, when Kennedy said we're going to go to the moon, there were a lot of people around who just thought it wasn't possible. And these people reached down deep, if you will, in their gut and reached out further, and it was their endeavor and their effort and their commitment that allowed us to go to the moon.
In 1967, preparations were well underway on the Apollo program. The scientists labored long and hard on how to land a manned craft on the moon. Their best efforts, the specter of disaster was never far away.
Pete, go ahead. That's gone. Now wait. That's gone.
An astronaut corps had been chosen for the mission, and they were being put through a tortuous regime of physical and mental tests designed to push them to the limit of human endurance. They had to be tougher, fitter, and smarter than any pilot in history.
Now all of a sudden you realize, you look around, I am one of these guys. I'm walking the halls with Alan Shepard and John Glenn and Deke Slayton. I'm expected to compete at a higher level. But of course, then we're all competing with each other for seats. And the competition was keen. I've been a naval aviator flying off an aircraft carrier. I think I understand what competition is all about. Never has it reached the levels it did in the space program.
We knew that there were only a limited number of us who were going to get to go to the moon, but that sense of I'm going to beat him out and I'm going to do what I can to ruin his chances wasn't there.
The strange thing about the buildup for me was the fact that there was so much to learn. You had to learn how to fly 2 spaceships, really. I mean, there was so much to learn that I began to say about 6 months prior to flight, I have as much in my head as I can keep. I better not learn things that are not important. I can remember having to go to some event that didn't have anything to do with the mission. I would go and I would say to myself, pay attention enough to be friendly, but don't remember anybody's name. Don't remember their face, because I always felt like if I just learned any of that, which was useless information as far as on the mission, some useful information would pop out the other side. So I'd go to these things and it'd be over, and I'd always congratulate myself when I walked away and say, you know, I don't remember a thing about that.
The risks in this business are very high, so you do your job because you love it. Everything we needed to go to the moon with, we had to create. And this absolute joy of creation was just a marvelous thing to behold.
Everybody was just trying to do the best job they could. There was so much stuff to work on, you couldn't even know where to begin. When you got a job to do, there was just an infinite number of things problems you had to solve in real time, because the operators were interfacing with the engineers who were building equipment, and sometimes it wasn't very user-friendly, and you had to get in there and make adjustments and stuff like that. And that's a normal part of being a test pilot.
That kind of dedication, motivation, and willingness to work together, which came out of Apollo, was extraordinarily important to its success. In fact, it was critical to its success. You could not buy that kind of motivation, that kind of interest and dedication with the salaries that were paid. You just couldn't do it. They were there working their 16-hour days, 8-day weeks, damaging family relationships in too many cases because they believed that this should be done.
Early on, we were afraid to divulge any of our inner feelings to each other. We were too macho, you know, this is a business. We're not going to share some of our inner feelings and thoughts. We share them with other people, but we never really shared them with each other.
Occasionally you feel excitement and anticipation and exhilaration, but I wouldn't ever classify anything I felt as fear. I have a feeling, and all the, I think, crews felt this way, that if something happened, we'd take care of it, you know, we'd work it out. And that was just the kind of confidence that we went into these missions with.
We all had a healthy respect for what we were doing, and anybody tell you he wasn't excited is not telling you the truth, I don't think.
After years of research, development, testing, and training, the Apollo missions were finally ready to blast off from Cape Canaveral. 300,000 gallons of rocket fuel would propel these aerial leviathans from the swamps of Florida into the dark void of space. Strapped to the top of these, the astronauts viewed each launch with a healthy mix of fear, awe, and anticipation.
I personally thought that the chance of total mission failure and fatality was about 1 in 3, that the chance of not being killed but not making it around the moon as advertised was another 1 in 3, and the chances of a completely successful mission was 1 in 3. And those were, I thought, pretty good odds, given the importance of it. I was willing to risk my life. My wife, in my view, actually took the biggest risk because we couldn't get life insurance, and she had 5 kids, and here was Dad shooting off to the moon on a rocket, maybe or maybe not coming back.
My gut feeling was that we had a 90% chance of, or better, of getting back safely and a 50% chance of making a successful landing.
When we got out of the van that took us out there, we were parked at the base of the launch pad, and I looked up, and there's this, you know, monstrous Saturn vehicle just towering above us, and it looks alive. And the thought occurred to me, I'm riding that thing in about an hour or two. Then we took the elevator up, and I remember walking across the catwalk and just impressed with the excitement, the adrenaline that was flowing, and with the anticipation of today's the day.
Just walking out on the big arm, looking down 365 feet at this big beast of a rocket down there giving off vapors convinced me that it was a serious event.
Every machine is an extension of a human being, and we know human beings make mistakes. Yet people were careful so that their mistakes were minimized, and that's what we went with, and it was good enough.
Everybody has a totally different attitude around you. The crew support people are just acting differently. Although it still seems to be part of the training to a great degree, it is starting to look very different.
Our status board indicates the third stage completely pressurized.
The atmosphere in mission control is basically a controlled fury. These were young people standing on the edge of a diving board, ready to go in. Our average age at the time of the lunar landings was 26 years old. These people know that in the next few seconds they might have to be making a decision which is going to alter history.
I was at peace with myself and the situation. Actually, I fell asleep briefly prior to the launch.
And I remember being waked up, Alan Shepard say, "Hey guys, let's go. Wake up, Mitch." And so we're pretty relaxed. We were tired, but we were relaxed and ready to go.
T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting.
You start to hear noises in the launch vehicle that you've never heard before, particularly as you approach 30 seconds before launch. This huge Saturn V rocket starts to come alive, almost like an animal.
Ignition sequence start.
Launch command go.
Got a pitch and a roll program, and this baby is really going.
My heartbeat got up to 144 per minute. I found out later at liftoff, and so you can tell I was pumped. I was really excited.
It was surprisingly violent. It was like literally being heaved about like a rat in the jaws of a giant terrier. And I said to myself, well, here's the first thing that's happened and we didn't simulate it. How many other things are going to happen that we hadn't simulated?
I understand it was a spectacular launch. I wish I could have seen it, but I'm glad I didn't.
Houston, thrusters go. All engines, you're looking good. Hi, Roger, you're loud and clear.
When you head out to the moon, when you accelerate to 17,000 miles an hour and you look back over your shoulder and you see that horizon, which is slightly curved in Earth orbit, curve around upon itself and form something that is very strange and yet very familiar, and realize that you're not flying around anything. You're looking across oceans and you're watching a world turn on an axis you can't see, a world that grows smaller very, very quickly at first until you get to the point where you can literally cover up your identity with nothing bigger than your thumb. You can blot out your whole existence with something the size of the palm of your hand.
It certainly was overwhelming to me. It was awesomely beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful. We could see the Arctic Circle down across North America, Mexico, Central America. That was the land we saw, and that jewel of Earth was just hung in the blackness of space.
When we see ourselves in this bigger perspective, when we see ourselves from the cosmic point of view, call it the ET point of view, call it the God point of view, a shift takes place in your perception, and you start to think quite differently.
Maybe it was when I saw the Earth squeeze down for the first time, and I had this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach that I felt like an erasable memory. If I looked and saw one more exciting thing, the only way I could know about it was to erase a previous memory. For the next few days, I lived in fear that I wouldn't remember all of these neat things I saw.
Booster reports the thrust looks good on the S4B. This burn was initiated at an altitude of about 97 nautical miles above Earth. When finished, the spacecraft will be at about 150 miles above Earth and on its way to the moon, some 213,000 nautical miles away.
I set time aside, even put it in my flight plan, to look out the window and be aware I didn't see any difference. I didn't feel anything on the lunar mission that was different from flying in an airplane or going out camping.
This transmission is coming to you approximately halfway between the moon and the Earth. We've been 31 hours, about 20 minutes into flight. We have about less than 40 hours left to go to the moon.
The horizon and the lighting conditions and the scene out the window, it was remarkable, but we knew we were there in an unusual place.
America, Houston, this is America. You can breathe easier. America has arrived on station for the challenge ahead.
This is Apollo Control, 89 hours, 15 minutes ground elapsed time on the start of the first lunar orbit.
Okay, I got the landing site. We're right over the top of it. And the scarp is fantastically detailed. Can you see it there, Gene?
By now, this is the first time that the moon is looking big. And there was this unbelievable sight of all these craters. We all look at it and say, gee, look at that, wow. Because it looked like flying over snow-covered terrain where you could see the features, but with the soft toning of the snow taking out the sharp lines. You could fly around the moon and you look down at it, you can count its craters, you can do these things, you can ooh and ah over this, but you're gonna always stop and take one quick look because you never get tired of seeing the Earth pop up over the surface of the moon. The thing about leaving the Earth makes you appreciate what's there. The Earth is a very unusual place.
Landing a craft on the moon was the most critical and dangerous part of all the Apollo missions. With limited computer guidance, and with only a fraction of the Earth's gravity, the lunar module pilot had to maneuver the craft onto the moon's surface.
As we were approaching the time to start the descent to the moon, I gave my controllers a few minute break to go out and relax a bit, go to the restroom, maybe grab a cup of coffee. And then when they came back into the control room, you lock the doors. And when you lock these doors, there are only three outcomes that day. You're either going to land on the moon, you're going to crash, or you're going to abort the mission. Those were the only three outcomes available to myself and a very young team I had. So I felt I had to give them a few words. I had to tell them what I was feeling because I know their guts must have been boiling inside. And this was a very private conversation. It was on a loop that only the controllers in this room here could hear. This sort of gave me the opportunity to say, I trust you, I love you, you're a great team, and I think we got the right stuff to put a man on the moon this day. And then I said, okay, gang, let's go do it.
Okay, all flight controllers, go for landing. Retro. Go. Fido. Go. Guidance. Go. Control. Go. Telcom. Go. GNC. Go. Ecom. Go. Surgeon. Go. Capcom, we're go for landing. You're go for landing, over.
Get going. We is down among us, Charlie.
Roger, I hear you weaving your way up the freeway.
I think the final descent to the lunar surface was the highlight of the flight. It was very challenging, a lot of unknowns, and it was, for a pilot, a wonderful experience.
Flying that spacecraft down to the surface of the moon was as challenging a flying as I've ever had, compared only to perhaps a night carrier landing aboard an aircraft carrier. It's dynamic, it's noisy, you got an engine firing right underneath you, and then when you do decide where you're going to land and the dust clears and you shut the engine down and you land.
Down at 2. Fuel's good. 20 feet. Going down at 2. 10 feet. 10 feet. Contact. Stop, push. Engine stop. Okay, Houston, the Challenger has landed.
Quiet. After all this dynamics, all this excitement, all these vibrations, all these things happen, you shut down and plunk on the surface, and that is the definition of silence.
Roger, Challenger, that's super.
Houston, you can tell America that Challenger is a Taurus Littrow.
After landing, we had hours to stand there a mere 15 feet above the surface and look at pretty much everything out the front windows. We had a sense of the gravity, the character of the environment there. So long before we actually got out on the surface, we already had pretty good appreciation for what the moon was like.
It's pristine, it's unspoiled, it's sort of deserty looking, but it's beautiful. Some rocks are black and some are white, but generally just shades of gray, and you could look out across the clear horizon up into space to the blackness of space.
I look at the pictures today and I tell people how overwhelming this valley was, how surrounded we were by these mountains. And I know what I saw and I know what I felt, but when I look at the pictures, it's hard to relate that to people because they don't look that big. If you could put a little house or a little tree or a little something up there, then you'd say, wow, look at that house on the top of that mountain, isn't it small? But it wasn't there. We didn't have that perspective to work with.
This is Houston, loud and clear. Radio check and verified TV circuit breaker in. And we're getting a picture on the TV. Got a good picture.
Nothing could prepare you for stepping out on the surface. You can go to the bottom of the deepest ocean or climb to the top of the highest mountain on Earth, but you're still on Earth. When you step foot on the surface of the moon, you've got to realize, you've got to accept, and this is a difficult thing, that this is no longer Earth, and that this is something different.
As I stepped onto the moon the very first time, I actually felt right at home. And yet it was also, on the other hand, a very solemn moment in a way, because you're standing there and the thought hits you, I'm standing on the moon.
When you stand on the surface of the moon, you're quite aware that there is no air. There's a very bright, definitive nature of everything you're looking at. The surface clearly arcs away from you. You can see that you're on a sphere. Your feet form a frame that if your center of mass exceeds that on one side or the other, you're going to start to fall over. Here on Earth, you have to do something quickly to catch your balance. On the moon, you just sort of push off, and the behavior of movement on the moon is like slow motion.
Holy smoly! Why are we on a slope? You okay?
Man, that's rough country in there, isn't it?
Oh, dadgummit.
Come on.
1/6 gravity is delightful. You can jump flat-footed on the surface of the moon with a 100-pound sack of earth rocks in there. You can jump 2 meters flat-footed. You in the pressure suit weigh 360 pounds on Earth. You could barely move, and on the moon, it's just delightful.
The feeling I had was the one I had as a little boy. And my mother would put on my long-handle underwear, then she would put on a sweater, and then a snowsuit, and then gloves and mittens and a hat and earmuffs, and I'd step out in the cold. This bundled up feeling was safe, and it felt good. I felt good running along the moon, and I would say, boy, this is the moon. I'd look up. That's the Earth. It was hard for me to believe that after all these years, I was really on the moon, and that really was everybody else up there on the Earth.
And don't forget one in the command module. Right.
I would give anything to have landed on the moon. But I would give just about as much for the privilege of flying solo. And the guys that went down there on the ground don't know how exhilarating that was. You know, being by yourself in the quiet of the spacecraft. I had a tape that I was playing music, and I'd sit there in the dark and listen to that and see this unbelievable sight while you're floating. There just are no words to describe that feeling. It was exactly like I'd been there forever.
Come around there, there's a rock in the near field on this rim, so we'd like you to pick it up as a grab sample. I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. Now, May, when much to my surprise, a pair of bunny eyes. Oh, is this a neat way to travel? Isn't it great?
I hadn't really thought about enjoying myself. I had thought mostly about being ready to go and being prepared to do the best job I could. And it really was a bit of a surprise, I think, in retrospect at least, that Gene Cernan and I seem to be having such a great time.
I didn't go up there with the idea that, oh, I'm going to do this or have fun or sing songs. We sang songs on the moon. These things came naturally, and that was a surprise to me.
You're pretty agile there, Twinkle Toes. I'm going out for the ballet when I get back. You learn another line of work up here.
We were just the tip of the arrow. We were just the fortunate, the lucky ones. We were sort of we were the messenger, if you will, of civilization as we spread our wings and flew out to somewhere else out in this universe.
On the 14th of December, 1972, after 3 days and nights on the surface, Gene Cernan prepared to board the lunar module for the last time. He was the last man to walk on the moon.
To commemorate what the real meaning of Apollo is, we'd like to uncover a plaque that has been on the leg of our spacecraft that we have climbed down many times over the last 3 days. And I'll read what that plaque says to you. Here man completed his first exploration of the moon, December 1972 AD. May the spirit of peace in which we came be reflected in the lives of all mankind.
I know it happened. How I felt when I started crawling up the ladder and I looked over my shoulder both at the earth and the mountains surrounding our valley and at my last footprints on the surface. And yet, at times then, it seemed unreal. It seemed almost like a dream. And surely today, I wonder sometimes if it really happened, if I was really there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Give us, O God, the vision which can see thy love in the world in spite of human failure. Give us the faith to trust the goodness in spite of our ignorance and weakness. Give us the knowledge that we may continue to pray with understanding hearts. And show us what each one of us can do to set forward the coming of the day of universal peace. Amen. Yeah, that Challenger's a beautiful vehicle. You betcha. Houston, America has found some fair winds and following seas, and we're on our way home.
Upon leaving the moon, there was a nostalgia, looking at it as we left it and saying goodbye and recognized we wouldn't come back.
Leaving the moon, we're coming home. The only thing left to do is to do this little EVA. You open the hatch and you go outside. And I looked out there, and there was not a star in sight. There was nothing. It was the most amazing picture. There's nothing here but this silver color on the side of the service module, a handrail, and nothing else.
Hello, Mom. We see you, Ron. Looking great. Okay. Hey, John. How you doing? Hi, Jamie.
The significance of what we've done in this past generation, I don't believe will be appreciated for many, many years to come. You come home perhaps wanting to be an idealist because you see the world truly without any borders, without any fighting, without any strife. You see no religious or cultural or color differences or borders. all you see is the borders that nature and God laid out there for us, the borders of the oceans and the continents and the rivers and this kind of thing. And you realize you truly are an idealist, and you can't change the world overnight. And maybe not many of us try, because you come home to the practicality of life, as unfortunate as it is sometimes. But if you could take every human being and stand them there and look back at the earth, I think they would all come back. Each and every one of them would come back with a different understanding of who they are and what we are as a sailing ship that is moving through the blackness of the universe of space.
Some people said they came back changed, and other people say they didn't. I kind of agree with Stu Russo. I think going to the moon wouldn't change anybody. I think people that went there are just the way they were when they came back.
Everybody came back just more like I knew them when we were just around each other. So I think maybe success doesn't change you, because I call that success in the realm we were in. Success doesn't change you as much as it reveals you.
If there was one basic thing that I believe I observed in all of us, is that we had our philosophies, our beliefs, spiritual or otherwise, reinforced by the Apollo experience.
Well, it was wow. It was a wow time. But my colleagues eventually came around to saying that we had a major new set of things to think about. There really was a powerful impact.
To me, it wasn't a spiritual experience, nor was it a philosophical experience. It was an adventure. Those were two great spacecraft I strapped into. When I got back, I would have strapped into another one the next day. It was that much fun.
I like to think I'm unchanged. I like to think I'm the same person I was before I went to the moon. And indeed, I believe I am. And yet, I know that I'm one of only 12 human beings in the entire history of mankind that literally walked on the moon.
Here you've been focused on this tremendous objective. I'm going to go to the moon, and now finally you're there and it's over. And you're not going to do it again, you know that. And then you think about all the things, and like Al said, is that all there is?
The Apollo mission was officially disbanded in 1974. Just 12 men had walked on the moon's surface. The astronauts, along with thousands of technicians, engineers, and scientists, now had to find a new life and come to terms with the enormity of their experience.
I believe it was a very difficult transition for virtually everybody in the program. We had been to the moon. We had lived basically a dream that had been given us 9 years earlier. Many of these young people, this was the first time that they had to make a conscious choice. Do I continue working in space, or am I going to do something else? What do you do after you've been to the moon? Some of the young people found the answer and they went on. Other ones didn't find the answer. They left the space program, and I think many years later they look back and feel they made the wrong decision.
I was sort of charged up for about another 6 to 8 months until Apollo was over. And then the thought occurred to me, it's over. I'm 37 years old now. What am I going to do with the rest of my life?
You can't go through life living in yesterday. Life is today and tomorrow. And one, seems to me, one has to appreciate the things that have happened. But you can't live there.
The mountain we climb was deep, pretty tall, and it's tough to find another one. I finally had to admit that I searched for a long time, until perhaps just recently when I accepted the fact that, no, I'm not going to go back to the moon. And yeah, getting up in the morning is a challenge, and I like business challenges. I still fly airplanes, and that's always a challenge. I mean, none of them can compare to going to the moon, but I now find myself satisfied with them. I couldn't have said that 20 years ago.
Although most are now retired, the Apollo astronauts enjoyed great success once they left the space program. Bill Anders worked in Nixon's White House and various government jobs before chairing General Dynamics. Gene Cernan, too, became a successful businessman and is now president of his own aerospace company. Charlie Duke became an active speaker and now tours the world as a devout Christian minister. Edgar Mitchell continued his scientific studies into space, human consciousness, and extraterrestrial intelligence. Ken Mattingly went back into the aerospace industry and now develops rocket engines and thrust technology. The Apollo mission controller Gene Kranz continued at NASA for many years, becoming deputy director of flight operations. He finally retired in 1994 after 37 years of service. And Neil Armstrong, the most famous of all the Apollo astronauts, is chairman of his own defense electronics firm and now travels the world lecturing.
The important achievement of Apollo was a demonstration that humanity is not forever chained to this planet, and our visions go rather further than that, and our opportunities are unlimited. The kids, I find, are pretty enthusiastic about what we did. The regret on our side is that they used to, some years ago, they used to say, we were reading about you in science class, and now then it was, we were reading about you in history class, and now I think it's early American history.
We went for a political objective, which was as gutsy as the mission itself. I don't think most of us recognized it then, but we do now. And so, if it had not been for that political outpouring, Apollo couldn't have happened.
Exposed to the opportunity to go to the moon is a tremendous impact on a person's life. It's a great privilege, great honor, great responsibility to have been given. And I think I need to thank the rest of the world for having been given that.
It was a great 12 years. I mean, the whole thing was fun as far as I'm concerned, from the day I walked in the door until I splashed down on Skylab. And I just hope that I live long enough right now to get another ride again, probably on my own vehicle.
I always look for the place we land, even though we can't see the crater from Earth, even with the best telescopes. I'll think about the surveyor sitting there, and I'll think about my little astronaut pin that I threw in the crater still being there, and maybe someday somebody will go up there and bring it back home, some tourist. But those are the sort of things that run through my mind.
I think we did a pretty fair job at it. Yeah, I think considering what the training was and what we knew and what we didn't know, considering the risk that the lunar missions involved, I think we did a heck of a job. The total program was really well done.
Humbled to have been a part of that, yeah. To have thought I was in the right place at the right time. A little kid growing up in South Carolina who never thought you'd, get out of Lancaster, to have participated in such a great adventure is rewarding yet humbling. And I'm very thankful I had opportunity.
The Apollo missions were said to be the greatest technological achievements of mankind. As the Saturn V rockets lit up our skies, the late 60s and early 70s were a unique time in our history. The feat of sending 6 manned missions onto the surface of the moon, some 250,000 miles from the Earth, was all the more amazing when you consider the technological limitations of the day. The Apollo craft had roughly the same computer capacity as a pocket calculator. It was a voyage of inspiration undertaken by a determined group of men willing to risk their lives. And yet, 30 years on, instead of the moon being a gateway to our future, we've let it become a brief chapter in our history. It's left to a future generation to return, to pick up where Apollo left off. We will return to the moon. We'll travel to Mars and to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. But we'll never forget the Apollo astronauts. They touched the face of another world and made us a people without limits.
We'd like to share a piece of this rock with so many of the countries throughout the world. We hope that this will be a symbol of what our feelings are what the feelings of the Apollo program are, and a symbol of mankind that we can live in peace and harmony in the future.